Maybe a little drama, and Kirk Herbstreit was trying to point this out and did so in a blunt fashion on the broadcast. Is it Dejon Terry?
Yes.
Former Vol, correct?
So he went by DJ Terry with Tennessee, and now he's Dejon Terry. So he just had the initials at Tennessee.
Okay, so he's
a Tennessee transfer.
Okay, now he's at Oklahoma, and he knows this pace to the offense very well. Also, he's the designated flopper. You could tell because it happened. And Kirk Herbstreit saw it and had this to say in response.
He's a guy you cheer for, 6th year of college football. Walking off is Terry.
Chris, this is progressive pylon cam. Listen, I'm not saying this guy. This is college football. It drives me crazy. They look over after a big play, and all of a sudden he looks over and he just goes down. You know, it's not necessarily against the rules, but it's unethical as hell when you see this all over against these tempo offenses. Guys just go down with the quote-unquote injury.
Preach, Brother Herbstreit.
I just can't. It's pathetic.
Yeah, it is. But it's also so difficult to penalize because what if the guy actually does have an injury? And you can't just penalize the team for an injured player. I would hate to be the official that has to throw a flag on that. I'm glad that they don't. But at the same time, I wish we would see we wouldn't see this when you have a defense that can't keep up. And you're looking over to the sideline to see if the coach wants to go ahead and slow down the pace a bit. In this game, it didn't matter how fast Tennessee was going or slow. Oklahoma had no answers.
And Kirk Herbstreit described it very well because what happened on that play was they're going in slow motion to try to see the injury, and they're showing Dejon Terry standing completely firm and upright, getting ready for a play, looking to the Oklahoma sideline, and there's some sign that's flipped up.
Sniper.
And he just hits the ground right, like he was shot in the Achilles and falls down on the ground. It is unethical. It's also within the rules right now of college football. And it's not just Oklahoma that has done it. I remember in 2021, we're doing our college football tour with the SEC with OutKick. We are at the Georgia-Kentucky game and down in Athens, and then we get back home in time to watch Tennessee and Ole Miss. And this is where Vol fans were in an uproar because Lane Kiffin comes back to Knoxville where he spent one season. And, I mean, it was just a chorus line of dudes flopping throughout the night. So much so that it was nearly comical. You could tell it was Lane Kiffin almost having fun and flaunting the rule in the faces of everyone that was watching that game. There were fake injuries galore in that game, and the Tennessee fans were booing every single time. It's a ploy to slow down the Tennessee offense because they know when they get a big run and get a first down, they are about to hand the ball to the umpire quickly, that running back or receiver. They're going to spot it, and they're going to snap it quick. And it's a way for the defense to slow things down.
And to change personnel, right?
They've got to do something. Kirk Herbstreit said, hey, this is college football. I'm not trying to pick on him. And he's right. It is college football. College football can fix this to some extent. I don't know if it's a 5-play rule where you sit out for 5 plays if you're injured anyway. If you have to stop the game and stop the offense for any reason on defense, then you got to go sit with almost a penalty box. There's an official on the side. And they stand there.
For those plays.
They're counting plays, and you're sitting there with that person. If you're able to, if you're not injured,
right,
and you're able to stand, you're standing with an official. And then once the 5 plays are up, boom, you take the hat off the person or whatever they have that shows they are now eligible to enter the game. To me, that's a common sense solution that I would hope almost everyone would agree to, but we know they won't because they like to get away with this. And I'll also say, Tennessee's not innocent of this also.
Sure.
Tennessee, I would challenge people to go back, and I've seen announcers laugh at it too. Watch how many offensive linemen get hurt on extra points for the Vols. Just next time you watch a Tennessee game, note how long that television timeout takes if they score in under 2 minutes.
And that's to give their defense a little bit more time.
That is Tennessee scoring so fast. They want an extended media timeout, and they have mastered the art of offensive lineman goes down, you have to go tend to him. It gives your defense another 1.5 to 2 minute break going into the commercial, and that gives their defense more time to rest. My point is, I think everybody's guilty of it. Does it hurt a Tennessee more because they play so much faster? Yes. It does hurt their offense more, but everybody has their own little tricks.
And I think it's more about the personnel packages and try. You can have a guy go out that you want to sub out, to get an extra linebacker in, or to go with more of a nickel or dime defense because of the down and distance. I think it's more likely you're flopping based on that because they're not subbing, so you can't sub to match, and that you can't. You would have time to get another player on the field if Tennessee did that. In Tennessee's case, they're doing it they're scoring so fast that their defense needs an extra breath or two. But also, this is very Belichick-esque. Remember when Belichick found the loophole where Vrabel would take the timeout that did not exist? It was either on a kick or a final play. They would take their final timeout. They'd come back out, and to try to get in the mind of the kicker, Vrabel would be right over the snapper and then look to the sideline and call timeout and jump up and down, seeing if the kicker would at least notice him and maybe be off kilter. And in fact, there was a couple of times where the kicker missed due to that. In the very next week, there's a new unsportsmanlike penalty clause or point of emphasis moving forward, but they won the game because of the missed kick. It still counts. I think the coaches are looking for those loopholes, and in this case, because of the magnitude and emphasis on injuries, especially in this sport, I don't know how you decipher whether or not a guy's injured or not. For instance, Quinn Ewers was hurt, took another snap, and then went down.
Yeah.
Now you wouldn't want your quarterback for the Texas offense to do that, right? There's no reason to fake that. But there's also instances where I'm sure a player can, get a little dinged up or can't sub in or out because the offense is going so fast, and he actually is a little banged up. I don't know how to judge that. I'm very iffy on – it just comes down to this. Coaches just need to agree they won't do it.
Yeah, and there's already rules in place where the offense can't intentionally have an injury to stop the clock.
Right.
So there's rules in place against that. So I don't know that you have to have this rule with offense, but I really think college football could spin it both ways. Like, hey, we are concerned about the health and safety of players in the sport. So either way, one of two things are true. You're legitimately hurt, banged up, injured, whatever, and you need to sit 5 plays while a medical person looks at you, or you go jog on the sideline or get ready to go back in. So now we're preventing coaches from, in a hasty fashion, rushing guys right back out on the field after one play.
It's like you lose your helmet.
Or you fake the injury, and you're going to sit over here for 5 plays in the penalty box. So I really think it cuts out both of them. I don't know why more people aren't talking about this or don't do what I'm saying. It seems like a very easy solution. And for someone like Kirk Herbstreit to talk about it and refer to it as unethical as hell during that broadcast, which I don't have the ratings right now, but I'm sure millions of people watched that Tennessee-Oklahoma game, and he's such a prominent figure on College Game Day. He's the type of guy who can affect some change on this. If he talks enough about it, if College Game Day comes back and Nick Saban and Kirk Herbstreit and the guys are complaining about this not being a rule, this is something that college football will start to pay attention to, because Kirk Herbstreit has the clout to make it happen and to make things change. So maybe there's some good that can come out of this and they change that rule.
How about just the Vols winning over the weekend, period? Morgan Wallen played back-to-back nights at Neyland Stadium while the Vols are on the road. And, well, night 2, which was yesterday, Peyton Manning joins in on the walkout along with Josh Heupel, winning coach, and more. Here is Neyland in the walkout, which Wallen is known for at every one of his shows. Peyton in the 16, not just jersey, but full uniform in the Vols locker room.
Padded up.
For the walkout as Morgan goes on stage. This was awesome. And Peyton is in full player mindset here, as he would be if he were actually walking out to play back in the day and give his all for Tennessee. Quite the walkout idea, and they pull it off to perfection.
Yeah, just the perfect weekend for Tennessee athletics. Saturday night at this concert, Tony Vitello and some members of the Tennessee baseball team walked out, the national championship team with them. And then last night, Nico Yamaleava, Brew McCoy, Josh Heupel, Peyton Manning, fully suited up in uniform. Really, really cool. Peyton looked like he's kind of like back in college. It was weird. You'd think you'd like look like an old man in the
got
uniform
the
now.
old defensive lineman helmet on too.
Yeah, but he looked remarkably kind of like he did in college, walking out with the pads on.
That was cool.
Big time had by all in orange this past weekend. And the key thing was winning over a top 15 opponent on the road for the first time since 2006,
Chad,
which was a big win in the early going for Tennessee.
I think there are 5 teams right now as we go into and we're about to hit October that legitimately can win the college football playoff, go through all of the matchups. Tennessee's one of them. And I'm just judging this based on teams I've seen play other programs and how those results have been. Tennessee's in that 5 for me that can win the title. I needed to see this game in order to see what Nico did on the road. I know I saw the neutral site game against NC State. I didn't know how good NC State was.
NC State sucks. I think we know that
now. Yeah. Oklahoma, maybe they're an 8-win team. You know, their best quarterback, we didn't get to this, their best quarterback is their backup, right? And then Herbstreit also said that, like, this is your quarterback.
Yeah,
this is your quarterback.
You know what the quarterback is now.
Like, moving forward, I think they could be an 8-win team with him potentially. I mean, again, like, I really like Venables.
I think their defense is really good.
Yeah, me too.
And Brent Venables is a defensive guy. I think they've got one of the best. I don't know that Tennessee's going to see a much better defense than that, honestly. Even with Georgia and Alabama, that defense is legit. They got some issues on offense.
Offensive line is awful.
But think about the balls on Brent Venables to bench your 5-star plus quarterback. You know that guy's making over $1 million in NIL.
Yep.
If you've got a 5-star quarterback, to go with the legacy, whose father played corner at Oklahoma.
Yeah, great point.
And to pull him out of the game with, 2 minutes left in the first half in that moment and go back. Like, we talked all about Bryce Young and the implications of that with your first overall pick. There's a lot of implications in college now when you bench the 5-star quarterback in that fashion, that publicly, in that spotlight game.
And then you have the passion in the moment and the fire
I thought
and the
it took
fight.
some real courage of Venables to do that.
I agree with you. Because we're not seeing that necessarily at Florida.
No.
You know? It's the opposite, where you're playing both. In this case, maybe they continue to play both. We don't know that yet. But what we do know is they played much better with their backup in. And I see a potential 8-win team. But again, I'm factoring that into what Tennessee did. On the road, top 15 opponent, atmosphere, all of it. And from the jump, Tennessee was going to win that game. The other programs are about what you would expect. And I'm reserving the right to add more in as we see more games. But to me, it's Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee. I'm throwing in Alabama into the mix because of Jalen Milroe and the veteran group that they have and some of the transfers that they brought in. Plus, they have a straight ball coach that may not have a better roster at Alabama than the one he has right now. I'll allow him to prove me wrong on that. But I'm taking the roster that he has currently that, in large part, he inherited. Those are my 5 right now. Miami's got a shot, but I'm still not buying all of the Hurricanes, what they're doing moving forward. They're on the outside looking in. Utah looks really good even without Cam Rising, but again, I think they need Cam Rising to win, and he's always banged up. Is there another one that you would throw in the mix? I'm factoring in what I saw from Oregon to begin the season. I don't see that. USC goes on the road.
Old Miss, I would possibly throw in.
But I don't know who they
haven't played anyone.
Ole Miss can as easily be they can beat Tennessee, and they can easily be the version of Missouri that we've seen.
Yeah.
You know, Missouri continues to win, but they are towing the line of falling off the cliff with a really bad loss. And they nearly did that this past weekend again to Vandy. They, went toe-to-toe with Boston College. Point being, they're continuing to win. I don't know if they can go through the gauntlet week to week of now the college football playoff. I think Tennessee can. Their defense travels. They can run the football, and they have a young quarterback with ice water in his veins.
Yeah,
I love what I saw.
I'm with you. I think really after the NC State game was when I started to think this team just isn't just eke into the playoffs good. They could be national championship good. And everything was confirmed to me on Saturday night. I thought Nico handled the environment really well to be his first true road start. I didn't see any shakiness in him. He had some dimes that were big-time passes. That one to Deontay Thornton across the middle, beautiful. The Brew McCoy teardrop. I mean, there were a few that were great.
Yep.
He wasn't perfect, but I don't think anybody was expecting him to be perfect. I thought Nico made I counted 3 very odd cutback decisions running the ball. Well, if I'm going to nitpick,
Sure.
I thought there were times where he had a big run gain and he kind of chose a weird cutback angle and didn't get as much as he could. Other than that, I thought he was really good. I'm with you, Hutton, on those 5. We're doing the Elite 12 of college football rankings for OutKick. The 5 I sent in for my top 5 were in line with you, but I had Texas 1, Tennessee 2, Alabama 3, Georgia 4, Ohio State 5. And I can only go by what teams have done and what I've seen.
Yeah.
Ohio State hasn't played anybody, so they're hanging on at 5. They haven't done anything wrong
But
either.
we both know
I know how
they're
good they
legit.
are and talented.
Yeah.
Georgia looked really good against Clemson on a neutral site. They looked really bad at Kentucky.
They did.
So it's a little bit of good and bad there. Alabama looked good and winning on the road at Wisconsin, a Big Ten team. They get marks. They're ahead of Georgia for that. Texas went on the road and throttled Michigan, who shockingly beat USC running the wing T on Saturday against them. 32 passing yards. Crazy.
32 passing
And then
yards.
Tennessee's got the neutral site win over an NC State team that, let's go ahead and say, were overrated to open the season in the top 25. They looked awful against Clemson on the road on Saturday. And then getting that top 15 win. Tennessee's got the best win of any of those teams, winning at Oklahoma at night
Yes.
in their first ever SEC game. So I've got Texas 1, Tennessee 2 right now. But, yeah, all 5 of those teams, I could see them winning the national title. I'd probably I went Ole Miss 6. They're right there on the edge.
I've got them there.
I'm knocking Missouri way down the list after really surviving
Me too.
Vanderbilt
They're
at home.
in, but they're potentially the first team out. I've got them at 10 or 11, I think, is what I sent in. So here is OutKick's Elite Top 12. Each Monday we're unveiling this, the list for how we see as OutKick.com the college football playoff rankings presented by Hims. To learn more, visit Hims.com. The value, by the way, the list of pickers: Clay, Trey Wallace, Chad and myself, Dan Dockich, Les Miles, Brock Heward, Tim Brando, Lou Holtz, Tommy Tuberville, Janine Edwards, Will Kane, Ricky Cobb, and Kelly Stewart. So each Monday we've got this. Here is the Elite Top 12 with the +1 of the non-Power 4, the group of 5 school represented, the highest ranked. Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama in at 4 for the consensus.
By the way, this is not how the playoff would look. We realize that because it's the top 4, group of 4, or the Power 4 champions. This is our top 12.
Our top 12,
and then with a group of 5 team at number 12.
But this is how the rankings could be. And then you take your top 4 highest ranked college conference champs or highest ranked conference teams and move them into the buys.
In this situation, if we were looking at what a bracket would look like, we would go, there you go, Texas, Utah, Miami, Ohio State as the 4 conference champions.
So I have this is exactly how I ranked my top 12 with the top 4 seeds. How my bracket was unveiled as well.
Did you have Boise State as your group of 5? Group of whatever it is now?
So I went Washington State.
Nice.
Why? I mean, they're right now unbeaten. They took out Washington. Now, they don't have a conference championship game, obviously. So it's tough.
Tough to have that when you don't have a conference.
Right. It's going to be tough for them to
They should just play Oregon
play
State
that
again
extra game
for the conference championship. That's just the de facto championship game that
play
you
them
play
again.
twice.
But
as the only 2 teams?
You'll have another team like Liberty or someone else that will be able to Liberty. Man, they came back from 17-0 down to East Carolina. More on that later this week, I'm sure. But Tennessee's not as valued in the consensus rankings as you and I have them. And I don't know how there's, to me, I've seen more from Tennessee than I've seen from Ole Miss. I've seen more from Tennessee than, I've seen from Bama. I had Tennessee ranked ahead of Bama.
If we're going by what we've seen, I've seen more from Tennessee than Georgia. And it's why I had them ahead of Georgia in the ranking. So, yeah, if I'm going to criticize what the consensus came up with here, and I have no problem doing that, Tennessee's way too low, I think, on this list. And Boise State is the 12th. I get that. They have a loss. Again, I'm going by what I've seen. And what I had in the preseason was Memphis being the group of 5 champion to be in there. I just saw Memphis go up to Navy and lose, so I've got the midshipmen at number 12. I was deciding between Navy and Army, who are both undefeated and look really good. But because Navy has that win over Memphis, who went on the road and won at Florida State, I went with Navy as my 12th team.
Let's skip this up for a bit while we talk through this. So Tim Brando, for instance, he's moved Tennessee up to 6. He had them ranked pretty low last week. He didn't have Bama. Brando didn't have Bama in his top 12 last week.
Okay.
And he does now.
Not a big Wisconsin guy?
Well, maybe it was right before Wisconsin's game. Now he does. He's got Bama in at 7. Looking around some of the other maybe surprises, Lou Holtz has Oklahoma State in at 11 this week.
Okay.
Utah in at 8. So he's valuing the Oklahoma State very high. He also has Notre Dame in. Coach does. His top 12, just to run through Lou's, Coach Holtz. He's got Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Ole Miss, Penn State, then Tennessee, Utah, Miami, Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, and Liberty.
Okay.
Liberty in as his +1. A lot of people going with Boise. That's why they're represented here. James Madison, Dan's got James Madison in. I went with Washington State. Clay went with UNLV, and you went with Navy. I like the Navy idea.
I like James Madison. I like Dan's pick for the Group of 5 team. 70-50. They win at North Carolina. They had 53 points at halftime. So I was out to lunch with my parents and some family on Saturday watching games, and I had to squint 3 or 4 times, and I'm looking at the TV, and I was turning to my dad, and I said, "Does that say 53-21 at halftime? Is that a halftime?" I was so shocked. The halftime score, it was like 53-28 or 30 or something and I'm thinking, did anyone complete a tackle in the first half? Like, I want to see a stat on actual tackles made. Were people downed on the ground at any point in that half? That's like a Nebraska 8-man football score at halftime. That was wild.
Crazy. The other thing, the point differential in a winning for teams that score 50 or more. Did you see the stat?
No.
You had it was a losing team that scores 50 or more. This was like the second largest point differential for a team that scores 50 or more in what they allowed. MTSU was like number 1.
Oh no.
Against Florida Atlantic, and I think that was Kiffin's year. That was a boat race.
I was paying attention to Duke at MTSU just for Hutton and his alma mater.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty.
No.
Hutton was right to say you need to jump on Duke in the -14.5 or whatever it was. They was not great.
How did everyone do in wrong team favored?
Not good, because I picked Mississippi State, and Florida just rolled them, and Blake Shapen's out for the season for the Bulldogs.
Davey, how'd you do? Wrong team favored? No. I was up 17-0 after a weather delay. This game kicked off at like 11 o'clock Eastern. East Carolina against Liberty. And wouldn't you know it, Liberty came back and won that game.
So you did not win also.
I did not win. Last
I gotta really
drive at the end.
I got to really focus in. I got to get some charts out, get my analytics going, and got to get back to some winning ways. Some winning ways. I've won one game. It took me until Thanksgiving weekend, I think, a year ago to win my first game. So I need to get back to a win in wrong team favored. Hey, just another note on Group of 5 games this week. How about our guy from Thomas Hammock from Northern Illinois?
Yes.
Losing at home to Buffalo. After everything that happened, winning at Notre Dame.
Going from a double-digit underdog.
So bad because I'm thinking now they're in the top 25. They can be a story all year. There's all these reports about what he's doing to capitalize on recruiting, and then he goes home and loses to Buffalo. Pete Limbo is the Buffalo coach. Do you think that he called Thomas Hammock and offered to give him advice on how?
Here's how I beat you.
I'm sorry.
Or what if Pete Limbo was like, no, I'm going to share this with all of his opponents moving forward.
I can be a real prick, and the first thing I thought was how funny it would be if Pete Limbo whispered in his ear and said, hey, I know how to beat you. If you want to talk this week, I can tell you how we prepared to beat you. The Buffalo coach did that like he did with Marcus Freeman, which I think was pretty cool of him to do and for Freeman to take the call. But, man, oh, man, life comes at you fast.
Yes, it does.
Sports are unforgiving. That's the lesson that was taught to us by Pete Limbo and the Buffalo Bulls this weekend up at Northern Illinois.
Is life coming at Hugh Freeze fast down on the plains?
Yes, it is. looks can be deceiving at times. There's no doubt about it, right? You can't judge a book by its cover and all of that. Yep. But I can't help but think that when I judge Hugh Freeze and look at the cover of that book, it's a pretty shitty book. That's what's going on at Auburn right now. That's not a book that I'm going to buy at Barnes & Noble. That's not a book that I'm going to pick up and take out at my local library, because his facial expressions are terrible during the game. The overall body language is miserable with Hugh Freeze. And now, Hutton, we've got him just completely throwing his quarterbacks under the bus, which that's Hugh Freeze's fault. This is year 2 now in a transfer portal era.
Yep.
Like, could they not pay Caden Salter, his quarterback who was great for him at Liberty, to come over? There was some holdup with Grayson McCall, who I know has not been very good at NC State, but he'd be better probably than these 2 quarterbacks. I mean, there are options out there if you're Auburn to go snag someone and pay for someone in the transfer portal, and he's failed to bring in a good quarterback. I know Peyton Thorne came over from Michigan State, but he's failed to bring in a good quarterback. That, to me, is on the head coach at some point, but not according to Hugh Freeze.
Well, so it's time for GTFO, and this is post-game after Auburn loses to Arkansas. Hugh Freeze on the quarterbacks that set a former quarterback, Bo Wallace, set him off on social media.
Unfortunately, this is what I know, and I know that there's people open, and I know that we're running the football. And we got to find a guy that won't throw it to the other team. And we got to find running backs that hold on to it. That's a huge play there. I mean, we're going in to score. I don't know, what was it, 7-0 then? Or so it's 7-7, and our defense gets a stop, and who knows what happens. But, the scheme is what most everybody in the country is running some sort of. But you've got to have good play at quarterback for sure at whatever system you're going to choose.
Sounds like an NFL coach right there after some of the quarterback play we saw yesterday. Yeah. There's Hugh Freeze after the Arkansas loss, and it sent Bo Wallace, a former quarterback of his, off. And, Chad, you know Bo well.
Yeah. Covered him in high school.
Yeah, that's right. And
Giles County.
He's coaching at South Alabama, I believe, is where he is.
Sounds right.
He went all in on social media, and you were asking about the other quarterbacks he could have recruited to Auburn. How about this? We're approaching the point that he's thrown so many quarterbacks under the bus that maybe no one wants to play for him. His offense helped me tremendously put numbers up when I blew my shoulder out. But why is it someone else's fault every time there's a loss? But when there's a win, I watch the press conference just to count how many times the word I is used. Appreciate what he did for me. My son wouldn't be playing for him, though. How about that? And he goes on to say, I've got a story I'll keep in my back pocket forever until it's time.
Auburn staffers calling my phone incoming. Yeah. It's really funny. He knew that was going to set off some calls to him.
But his former coach, one more line there. He goes, but that dude has never helped me a day in his life. It was always only about getting a win for him so he could collect his extra 100 racks a win. Wow. Continues.
Yeah, that's never good. And
Auburn fan base came at him.
Auburn, Auburn fan. And this is very predictable, and I would expect Auburn fans to come after him, and that's fine because here you got a former quarterback that everyone's going to say, "Oh, you're aggrieved over this or that. You didn't play at Auburn. You played somewhere else." And the moment things get tough or get thick for a coach, seemingly you have some people coming out and saying, "Oh, I saw this all along. Guy was a jerk to me." Or he did this when I was playing, and it's an easy and good time to jump on someone. We're efforting to get Bo Wallace on the show, by the way. Don't know if he's going to continue talking about this, but hopefully through some back channels we can make that happen this week at some point.
These are some of the responses to the Auburn fan base. I'm laughing my ass off. My guy, look at your neck.
I'm not even going to make fun of that. It's that bad, bro. That's the worst I've seen someone voluntarily do to their skin. Damn. Simply asking why Hugh can't ever take responsibility caused the whole Auburn fan base to riot. Can you say panic button? Good night, SEC. Some of us are undefeated, and some of us can't beat Cal. But one thing is for sure, we are not the same.
Well, I mean, he
well done,
went
Bo
all
Wallace.
in. And then Hugh Freeze.
South Alabama's having a heck of a year.
Hugh Freeze blocked him. Or blocked one of the 3-year letterman on social And Bo responds, I probably will be too. I won't notice, though. All the guy did was break my body in half, and I played every game getting a numbing shot just to go let him get his money. Then I graduate and can't do anything to benefit him. He hasn't helped me one time. That's the truth about who Hugh Freeze is. From Bo Wallace. Yeah, that's all in.
That's tough. Hey, look, we can debate the merits of coaches getting real in press conferences and how we don't like it when they're always cliched and don't say what they think. Hugh Freeze gave an honest answer on it.
Yeah.
I think two things can be true here also. I like the honesty. I like hearing from a coach on what they're actually thinking. I understand that it's some frustration talking. I understand that his quarterbacks are thrown to the wrong team, and when they fumble, it's not the coach's fault all the time if a running back fumbles. All of those things are true. I also don't think that 4 games into year 2 is the time to start openly criticizing your current players and basically talking about, we got to get some better players in here. I got to find a quarterback who doesn't throw to the other team and a running back who doesn't fumble to the other team. It's just not a good look.
Yeah, especially when you're changing out your 11.
I love the honesty. I'm not gonna knock a guy for being honest in a press conference. It's just, if I'm his boss at Auburn or someone that cares about that program, I'm sitting back and thinking, yeah, just shouldn't have gone there. Just, do the cliche thing and take all the blame. And hey, we got to find a way to get better. We got a lot of time to do it. We're going to find a way to not throw it to the other team. We're gonna get everybody better. We have the capability of doing this. The positive approach and spinning it to the next week is usually the way to go if you want to hold on to your team and hold on to your fan base. And now I'm very curious to see how that Auburn team responds to this, especially the quarterbacks.
Great point. How will the Las Vegas Raiders locker room respond?
This is a great quote.
The locker room, the players loved Antonio Pierce. Played hard for him whenever there was a change at head coach. And he ends up goes from interim to head coach full-time for the Raiders this past offseason. He's named the full-time head coach. And after week 3, well, he had this to say about the loss to the Carolina Panthers yesterday at home and the question regarding whether or not some players went into business for themselves.
That the team just didn't seem to show up tonight.
No, they didn't. I think as the game went on, I don't think it was a team. I think there was definitely some individuals that made business decisions, and will make business decisions going forward as well.
How about that?
I would hope the follow-up was, would you like to specify the players that made business decisions? Which players?
I'm watching the waiver wire today, man.
Are you talking about that made business decisions?
Or tomorrow.
Well, the only guys that I would think would make business decisions are the likes of Devontae Adams, or guys who are already making a ton of money and have made bonus money that could just check out quickly. They're not going to cut him.
Or defensive lineman or something that wouldn't get after Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton, 26 of 37, 319 yards, 3 touchdown passes.
But when I think business decision, I think high-paid star.
Yeah.
At some point, that's just like, I'm not going to go bust it in this game to do that. And when you follow up with a threat like that, it better not be an empty threat. Someone's ass better get cut today. Just like somebody in the Titans office is going to get fired probably today by Amy Adams-Strunk, someone needs to get cut by the Raiders and Antonio Pierce if you're going to say that, right?
I mean,
you can't just come back and be like, business as usual. That's the guys who made a business decision, and we've decided it's business as usual after that loss to the Panthers.
Devontae Adams had 4 catches.
Nothing changes around here.
4 catches for 40 yards. Brock Bowers, 3 catches, 41. Those have been the top 2 receivers, and they combined for 7 catches. Trey Tucker, your leading receiver for the Raiders, Chad.
Unless you're like, we're gonna give you some calisthenics. You're gonna run some stadium stairs extra. That's our business decision.
You have to stay up all night in Vegas.
I hear business decision, and I, like you, immediately look to the waiver wire the next day.
Yeah, just to see what happens
Someone's getting cut.
Yeah. No one's getting cut for the Green Bay Packers. You bring up what happened at Nissan Stadium yesterday. Matt LaFleur, once again, comes up and composes a game plan to perfection. But this time, totally different than the all-run approach and the all-run attack that we saw against the Indianapolis Colts. No, this time, Malik Willis comes in and looks like Michael Vick going against this Titans defense, who came into week 3 with the number 1 overall defense. Just yards allowed, all of it. And here's Matt LaFleur post-game as a fire alarm goes off.
Happy for our guys and proud of their effort.
You mentioned how
how we don't get it? I don't know. Keep going or not.
Whatever, keep going, keep firing away.
You mentioned how we.
They told me that this city was going to burn if we came in here and won the game, so I guess it is.
You mentioned how we don't.
Yeah, it felt like that.
LaFleur.
Malik Willis, who LaFleur.
LaFleur. I think of dodgeball every time I hear
Chad,
the
Malik
man's
Willis
name.
could not catch a snap. He could not field a snap when he was entered into a game against the opponent. The Titans tried to have a trick play or something when Tannehill was healthy, not when he was starting. Willis was starting. But here, he puts up career numbers in the first half, surpasses all of his numbers in the first half against this Titans defense. Crazy, man.
It was.
What did you say Friday about what you? There's no way Malik Willis was winning this game.
Oh,
and I said you're betting on.
It was my lock, NFL lock
I
of the
said
week.
you're betting on. You're betting on
Will
Levis.
Levis not to make a bad
And you're
play.
like, I'll take it back.
And sure enough, I'm getting ready to go coach a softball doubleheader, and I'm about to get in the truck and head to the game. And I look up, and lo and behold, Will Levis makes up his mind pre-snap. Boy, I'm throwing to the out on the right.
Yes, he did, man.
And you know who else knew he was doing that? Jair Alexander, who took it to the house easily, one of the best corners in the league. That was awful.
Yes.
And the people still defending Will Levis. Come on.
It's never ending.
It is. The guy is not helping himself. Oh, if you put in Mason Rudolph, you get a new offensive line. What's it going to matter? What's going to matter is you can't still make the plays that just ruin it for you. That's 7 points the other way because Will Levis is not looking through a progression. Will Levis is very clearly making up his mind pre-snap where he's going to go with the football, and that's where he's going. He's not seeing anything. It's a problem for the Titans, and it's not just Will Levis's fault. Yes, the offensive line sucks too. And I'll tell you what else isn't happening. It's not all John Robinson and Mike Vrabel's fault. Those guys aren't there. John Robinson had been there for 2 years.
Yep.
But this is what I keep hearing about the Titans. We got to get rid of these John Robinson guys. Stop looking for ghosts in the past and address your current issues because there's plenty of current issues to go around. And one of them is that you don't have your future quarterback on this roster. I hate to break that news to Titans fans. I think deep down everyone knows that. But they're going to have to go get a quarterback very soon, whether it's in this next draft or shortly after, because Will Levis ain't it. He's not been it the whole time.
Yep.
And he's not getting any better.
Continues to get worse. After tonight, they could be the only winless team in the NFL at 0-3. Maybe the Panthers will be better.
They lost to Malik Willis. The dude has been with the Packers for 25 days.
Yep.
25 days. 25 days
by the
later,
way,
after being traded for nothing, he comes to Nashville and torches you.
By the way, they interviewed Matt LaFleur for head coach. They went with Vrabel, and then LaFleur stayed on as their OC.